So, Jeffrey, are you here? There he is, right there. He's anxious to come on up. Jeffrey is CEO and founder of Flura. You can find Flura in the Wrazel directory, and it's, in my estimation, a great business model. I'm excited to hear what you have to say, so come on up and let us have it.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey Yarosz. I just want to say that all the pictures in our slides are our fields in Oregon and California. I want to kind of introduce myself a little bit and tell how I got into this. I'm actually I've been a financial advisor for 17 years with a background in commodity trading. So really the only thing I have to do with, the closest thing I've gotten to hemp is commodities. And I believe it is going to be the new American commodity. So what I really want to do is just kind of take you through what we've done to this point, and some of the challenges in the industry and where we kind of see things going. Since I have 10 minutes, I'm going to kind of skip through. This is usually about a 45-minute deal, and I can't do that. I've only got 9. All right, so really what this is, when you hear people say they're vertically integrated, these are really the 6 things that you have to be truly vertically integrated. These are all the things that need to take place before you actually have a product. You first have to have genetics or seeds. You've got to be able to plant it. You've got to be able to grow it. You've got to be able to harvest it. You've got to be able to dry it. And then at that point, if you're going to produce something to smoke, you can stop. But if you're going to take it further and go into all the products you see all over the place, gummies, pain creams, tinctures, you have to extract it. And I'm kind of going to drill into each one of these a little bit. So, genetics. We really started as a seed and grow company. And seeds start from regular seeds. You've heard, you hear the terms regular seeds and feminized seeds. Regular seeds being, if you take a whole batch of regular seeds, you have more or less 50% females, 50% males. And the reason that's a problem when you're trying to do something on an industrial scale is if you want to produce hemp, if you want to produce full spectrum CBD, you don't want males unless you're in the seed business. So if you're going to grow 500 to 1,000 acres, you're not going to grow 500 to 1,000 acres of regular seed, or you're going to be walking those fields picking out all the males, so you don't have 500 to 1,000 acres of seeded buds. So really, the whole industry starts on genetics and seeds, and that's really where we got started. Obviously, I'm not the farmer. That's pretty clear. I'm not the breeder. I've been fortunate enough, though, of looking into this industry for the past 5 years that I've been able to pull together a team of breeders and growers, and what it's enabled us to do is really have a good foundation. Because if you don't have good genetics, I don't care how good of a grower you are, or a farmer, or whatever you are, you're ultimately going to have a bad product. So we currently are growing 22 strains. We have 1 strain that we can actually claim has a total THC below 0.3%. Why is that a big deal? Because if you look at the seeds that you see on the market right now, the ones that are $1 to $2 a piece, and that's if you buy them in a large scale, those are mostly based on what's called the Delta 9 THC, which is only part of total THC. So what that means, like in Oregon, next year when it goes to total THC, the majority of the seeds are going to be illegal, or they would be considered hot. And that is what a lot of farmers are growing all over the place. They don't even realize they're growing hot hemp. And that's why seeds are important. So We feel pretty fortunate to be in the position where we are, that we're actually kind of getting ahead of the curve, because we know that ultimately when the government gets really into this, that that is what they're going to demand. No, in the United States, I'll say, no one's growing 1,000 acres, well, at least recently, 1,000 acres of cannabis outside. It just, it hasn't been done. It was done this year, supposedly, there's a lot of claims of it, but you couldn't go to a John Deere dealership and buy a hemp planter. It just doesn't exist. So we actually had to go to a custom planting company and actually design something to put the seeds in the ground. Ultimately, it's going to be pretty standardized in a year or two, but the fact that we actually had to pay for something to be customized to take these little seeds and put it in the ground is pretty remarkable, because otherwise you're pretty much spreading them or doing it by hand, because this is, up till this point in the United States, this has been a very, very manual industry. So we were able to purchase a seeder that we customized, and then we were actually able to get some transplant modified sweet potato planters out of Italy. So now you've planted it. Now you've got to grow it. Most cannabis has, to this point, been grown in greenhouses. Growing in greenhouses is a lot different than growing 500 acres outside. There are a whole slew of issues. You've got to contend with the nutrient levels. You got to in Oregon and California, you got to contend with water issues. You have to, you have to be aware of what the pest situation is. There's all these challenges that people that are only in greenhouses don't have to go through. And that's really the struggle in this industry, is going from more or less hobby farming to industrial farming. I think that ultimately when this year's over, we'll hopefully be able to harvest about 600 acres. Speaking of harvesting, the majority of the industry is hand harvesting. Why is that a problem? Well, to give you an example, some neighbors of ours were just harvesting in Central California, and it took 30 guys 9 hours to do a half acre. How are you gonna harvest 1,000 acres with manual labor? You can't. You have to mechanize it. Again, you can't go to the John Deere dealership, the Case dealer, or the New Holland and buy your hemp harvester. So we've actually are working with a company in Iowa that's been around since the 1800s that does build customized harvesting equipment. That's all they do. So they have a team of 40 engineers. We've been working with them since the beginning of the season, and we actually the last couple days just tried it out, and we're pretty excited about it, that we aren't going to have a labor camp with 5,000 laborers. We're going to actually be able to mechanically harvest the plant. That's huge. So you've harvested it. What's the next step? You've got to dry it, right? Well, if you've got 10,000 wet acres if you've got 10,000 pounds of material per acre, are you going to hang it all in your barn if you have 50 acres, 10 acres? I mean, give me a break. It's not even feasible. So that is a major, major, major choke point. So you hear all over the place, oh, there's 10 times more hemp growing this year. The price is going to collapse. Yeah, the price is going to compress. We know that. And in our projections, we've accounted for that. But here's the problem. How are they going to harvest it, and how are they going to dry it? They're not, unless they have literally come up with something like we have, where they're not burning it or just hanging it and hoping for the best, they're probably going to be losing it in the field. Because until you can figure out how to do, you better be doing 20 to 50,000 pounds a day, you aren't going to harvest a 50-acre field, let alone 500 acres. So when you see all these things out there of, oh, I've got 500 acres, I've got 2,000 acres, I want to know how they're harvesting it and how they're drying it. Because unless they are letting it mold, picking it by hand, or they're taking a combine to it, which would chip the stem up with all the buds and would lower your CBD, which would get you less money. There's really not, there's not a standard drying solution out there. And we've got some proprietary things that we are working on that. Last step, extraction. All of our biomass, with the exception of our seeded biomass, which will go to the cigarette market, will be turned into crude and or taken to distillate. We do aim to extract at least 400,000 pounds this year, and the purpose of our capital raise to this point is to really build out our extraction capabilities. As the gentleman earlier mentioned, it is a tremendous choke point. There's going to be a lot of people just sitting on stuff, and they have a pretty good strategy of going out and buying all the excess stuff that's just sitting around. There is going to be a lot of it because there's no extraction. But again, about half to 75% is never going to make it to extraction because they're not going to be able to get it out of the field and they're not going to be able to dry it. And we feel pretty confident that we are going to be able to do that. We are doing it currently. I guess there are no real questions in this forum, but normally I would do questions at this point. Again, my name is Jeffrey Yarosz. Our company is Flura. That's F-L-U-R-A, very easy to remember. That's flura.com. You can check out pictures from all of our farms on our Instagram page. That's Flura Hemp. And then I hope to meet some of you afterwards. If you have questions, I couldn't get into a lot of the details here, but I'd be happy to answer any questions and meet you guys afterwards. Thank you.